we found you, a rare breed.
You found me, yes.
A rare breed.
A rare breed.
Compliant crypto tax trader.
Beautiful unicorn, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would love to drill in a bit on why you decided to be compliant, being a crypto trader, or being perhaps even classified a little bit towards the degen side of things. And it's kind of alleged that only about 10% of crypto traders are declaring their crypto taxes.
Do you think it's as much as that?
From what we see, it could be very likely.
Okay.
So what made you make that decision that, hey, I'm going to actually add crypto to my tax return?
Well, I think while I was trading, you see these numbers and the markets move. So like in such a volatile fashion, and you're making lots of money and you're also losing a lot of money. And I think it's always this nagging feeling in the back of your head that I'm making money, but like I also have to I have to declare some of this at some point. Like it's going up, it's going down. At some point I got to take some out, and also at some point I got to pay tax on it. And I think that was always kind of sitting in the back of my mind, watching the markets move. And I think having the technical know-how and knowledge, I guess, was a bit of the concern. I didn't really have it at the time. I didn't really understand how to do that, to declare.
I think a lot of, if we go back to 2015, 2016, 2017, a lot of crypto traders at that point genuinely were way unsure what to do with this in regards of tax. From 18 onwards, I would say most tax authorities started making noise, typically one unison stance. Crypto is an asset or property.
Yes.
And you treat it the same, nothing else is needed. But there was a lot of ambiguity, a lot of
gray areas.
Yeah. So look, the tax authorities, I don't think they are totally not guilty in this.
Okay.
There's a certain amount of guidance that was expected from them. They had to gear themselves up and say, okay, there's a new technology. Let's understand it.
Yes.
So I do get that, and a lot of people are saying that. And definitely from my side, there's some sympathy there because you didn't know what the heck to do. And now you always sit with the situation. By the time you know what to do, you're paying on gains that you might not have anymore because that crypto could be down again. Yes. But
I think like in my situation, I mean, the market goes up to a certain level, and you've technically made a lot of money there, right? And you have this understanding that you only pay tax on the fiat you put in and the fiat you take out or whatever. It's kind of like all the trading in the middle between the fiat and the fiat. You're like, that's irrelevant. It's like whatever I make net is what I'm going to pay, which is a misconception.
Yeah, so a lot of people was actually thinking that only when I take it out to fiat, now I'm going to pay tax, which of course is wrong.
Well, I mean, sure, and knowing, having more understanding of it now, I mean, when my portfolio was at its top point and it's, up there and you're busy trading around and you're realizing all those gains at the top of the market and then being caught off guard and the whole market collapsing and you're left with almost nothing. It's quite unsettling. It's a bit worrying. I mean, if one's lucky, you still have enough to pay the tax that you owe on the gains you made. But because of how much the market moves,
would you say gradually your knowledge increased on the tax treatment and so forth?
I think initially it's something I pushed to the back of my mind. It's something that I didn't really want to think about that much. I knew at the end of the tax period I'd obviously have to declare, but it's kind of that thing you're always pushing.
But what made you decide when you got to your tax return, whichever point that was, to add crypto and press submit? Because depending which year we're talking about, but likely there was financial consequences.
Yes.
By making that decision. And like we said, a lot of people are saying we didn't get guidance, etc., etc. I'm not going to declare that. What made you decide to still go ahead and declare that?
I think, first off, having that peace of mind. I mean, it's always that nagging feeling in the back of your head, like,
It's that monkey on your back.
yeah, it's the monkey on your back. And I think also that understanding of technology only improves, and tracing mechanisms also only improve. So whether one is declaring now or has to declare further down the line, or the authorities come after you, it's tricky.
I never traded to any extent except
Yes.
except
Hey,
kind of
you like
experimenting.
you like Bitcoin
But
a little bit.
But I don't have gains, so
Yeah.
that's why I'm asking this question to
Yes.
you. I'm thinking if I made that gains, I would almost be suffering of a little bit of imposter syndrome if I didn't declare my tax. Because on the one hand, you feel like you've earned a lot. It's
Yes.
your money. I can
Yes.
spend it. I
Yes.
can invest it further. I can go overseas.
Yes.
But can you really? That thought would be back of my mind also that, hey, but a big part of this money isn't actually yours. Is that something you can relate to in the sense of when you make the decision to actually declare that? Or is it, I guess what I'm getting at, is there, even though there's lots of arguments about the government not being fair, etc., is there some part of feeling, hey, let's just do it the way it should be done, because I don't want to sit with money that's not really mine, kind of, or not really?
I mean, I guess maybe the feeling of it's like a closed system. It's kind of like, as long as I'm not paying for anything, or I'm not moving money out of it, or I'm not sending money anywhere, you kind of have this feeling that, like, it's all a closed ecosystem. So you feel like what I put in, what I get out, plus or minus the two, that's going to be your differential. And you feel like you're not blurring the lines by suddenly paying for something in crypto. It feels like if I keep it all together in one place, and I maybe isolate the ecosystem, like I make a closed system, as they would say in like science. It's like a closed system. Maybe you feel less bad because you're like, I mean, this isn't my money, but it's kind of all in the growing stages, and it's all in the investment stages.
And you mentioned initially peace of mind.
Yes.
What exactly do you mean with peace of mind? Is do you feel better emotionally by declaring that versus the alternative? Is that peace of mind the alternative of the nagging feeling?
I think, if I were to put it this way, I think it's that thing that's always in the back of your mind. It's like, it's something I'm going to have to do now or at some point. And the peace of mind is more like, it's not something I think about anymore. I would say that's more the peace of mind. It's like, I don't have to think, oh, but I still I need to make sure I keep this aside, or I need to make sure I find a way to report, or it's like that nagging feeling that just steals some of your energy. I mean, it's another consideration in an already like really complicated situation.
So maybe it's not nice to pay tax. It's never nice to, who likes paying tax? No one. But it's almost kind of, although you don't get any value from paying the government, if that's your stance, if that is, at least you are buying peace of mind for yourself. And then on the nagging feeling, let's pretend, hypothetically, you kind of take the role now of a morally dead, I guess, person that no sense of morals. So your only concern is being caught, let's say. And from what you've heard from other people and so forth, what is the thinking there? Where somebody just like, listen, I'm against the government. I have no moral obligation that I feel. Maybe it's there, I don't know about it. So I'm only worried, are they going to catch me? So nagging feeling, how long will it take for them to catch me? And can they catch me? So on that level, what would you say to that person? Can they catch me?
I mean, it's a bit of a race against time, actually. I mean, it's kind of this, you're racing against the technology going, like, the technology can technically collapse. I mean, we've seen FTX go down, we've seen a bunch of other exchanges go down. Terra Luna completely collapsing, like the Terra Classic chain just absolutely collapsing. So technically those transactions are lost in a way. That activity is kind of lost in a way.
But surely governments can still access that records from FTX, even more now than ever, because now they own them.
I mean, yeah, that
And
is
it's on the
true.
blockchain.
That is true. And as you say, it's on the blockchain. It's all public, it's all immutable. It's technically permanent. So it's not a case of if they will catch you, it's a case of when, in many regards.
Because if I can add there, if I was the tax authority,
Yes.
I will know there's a lot of money in this.
Yes.
Even though market cap might be way down now.
Yes.
Somebody, when the market cap was up, had the spread
Yes.
between their base and the
Yes.
gain. So there's a lot of money. So there's a lot of money in that. We add resources to it. We partner with tracing software like Chainalysis, TRM, whichever one, Elliptic,
Yes.
and we ask them to train us
Yes.
to catch that. Then we put pressure on the centralized exchanges. And
Because they have to report to you.
once I have that from the centralized exchange, now I can start tracing, and I guess then I can just subpoena you and say, from the centralized, you had interaction with this address.
Yeah,
is this
you have
cold
to
storage?
KYC, yes.
Is this cold storage? Is this your MetaMask wallet?
Yes.
Now I'm subpoenaing you. So now if you lie, it's criminal right there.
Yes.
Jail time.
Yes.
Joining SVF.
Yes.
Okay. So what would your advice kind of have been to the guy saying, look, they're never going to catch me. I only use decentralized exchanges.
I think that's pretty naive. I mean, if you've KYC'd anyway, someone knows who you are, and technically those records are not those records aren't safe. I mean, well,
And
safe.
there's subpoenas.
Yeah.
So they need to have some idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of when we do a client's crypto tax report and we get 5 wallets, and they sometimes forget
Yes.
about some wallets, and sometimes they forget about some wallets. But how long does it take us to actually go back to them and say,
not long
listen,
at all. Yeah.
We've traced your data, this is missing, this is likely missing, this is missing, is it yours?
Yes.
And
Yes.
you understand, if we can
Yes.
do it so easily, I guess if governments deploy that resources, they can also do it.
Yeah.
And then maybe jumping from that point, a lot of crypto guys
Yes.
think about, they love decentralization. And that's the ideal.
Yes.
You know?
It is.
Kind of a utopia of some sorts. But they feel we're decentralizing. This is the movement here. Why the hell now do I have to pay taxes to a centralized authority?
Yes.
Is that a stance that some people are taking, and that's why they're not declaring, or
I think
does it have an influence, that decentralized mentality? I like decentralization.
Yes,
I absolutely
yes.
like it, but I'm also not naive. I mean, you
I
gotta
do
pay taxes.
I do. Yeah. I love decentralization too, but technically, the founders of each of these protocols, of these DeFi protocols, they're based somewhere. I mean, they all live on Earth. I mean, it's not like they can deploy this from space. So technically, if you go and look at something like Uniswap, I mean, the founders of Uniswap have to be based somewhere, and technically it was deployed from somewhere. So I guess maybe the feeling that I didn't make this money in my country, so why should I pay my government? You know, like I made
you
this,
are still in that country.
I made this offshore. You
Yeah.
know, like I was, you know, farming pickles, you know, on
Yeah.
Pickle Finance, right? And Pickle Finance isn't based in South Africa, or it's not based in America,
States.
or whatever. You know, it's so you're like, why do I have to pay that? It's technically not made using any of our infrastructure. So I think that's
But I guess
bit of a
once you
consideration.
allow yourself to go down that line,
Yes.
you are immediately in the space of why should I pay any tax?
Yeah,
Because
no, of course,
you know,
of
and
course.
because I do work for a company overseas or whatever the case
yes,
may be.
yes,
But then on that point again, you've now made this decision to not do it
yes,
because you are decentralized and going all out.
Yes.
Now, 10 years down the line,
yes,
your tax authority catches up. and you get a letter
Yes.
or a visit.
Yes.
Don't know how drastic it's going to be. Depend how much you made, I guess. Anyway, now you go and they say you are paying this, they're adding penalties. Because a lot of people have the misconception that after 3 years they cannot. That is if you've declared it.
Yes.
And there's some period where they can't amend return if you have declared. If you haven't declared it, there's no scope where they can stop.
Yes.
They can take however long they want to.
Yes.
Now they come. So now you are, nope, I'm decentralized. That's nice. Sitting in jail talking to SPF about the powers of decentralization, because unfortunately, or fortunately, there is some structure in the world where you have to oblige to it. You gotta. And how is that argument gonna fly when push comes to shove? Now you have no recourse. You're on the back foot. You can't say I'm sorry now. Now it's penalty on penalty.
Yes.
And let's take the 21 bull run. And you didn't declare that, and you had a lot of gains. Imagine by 2031 the amount of interest and penalties levied on that. That's game over.
I think the biggest thing in all of this is actually it's not about necessarily that they're going to catch you. It's about the fact that they can also get it wrong. I mean, we've seen what were those forms being issued.
Yeah, in the US you see a lot of CP200s being issued by the RS, and then they just go, I mean, this is your sales, your cost basis we deem zero.
Yes.
You prove it. So
how do you recover from that?
Yeah, they can be very aggressive.
Okay, so you've lost that information as well.
Yeah.
How do you know what your cost bases were? You can't go and prove that now.
Yeah, because now it's 10 years down the line. They don't care.
Yeah.
If you can't prove it, your cost basis is easy
zero.
to prove.
Yeah.
Zero.
So you may owe way more by them getting it wrong 10 years down the line.
Because again, ignoring like it or not, fair or unfair, in most tax jurisdictions, the rule is the burden of proof is on the taxpayer.
Yes.
So you got to keep your records. Even if you want to argue, but now all my FTX trades are gone, you should have been keeping your tax records. And I think one golden thread I'm finding here is, if you're not declaring your crypto tax because of a fair, unfair, forget about that, because then you should go and live. Where's those places where people live and they are not part of the government? Then go there, kind of, because once you go down the line of fair, unfair, a lot of change. You can't just be fair, unfair on crypto.
Yes.
So, like it or not, you've got to declare. I think that kind of is clear there. Again, lots of injustices committed by the tax authorities in their lack of guidance, lack of understanding, etc. They are saying all crypto is assets or property. It's not that simple. We know with liquidity pools, there's so many complexities that goes into that those normal tax rules don't cater for. So I'm not saying it's fair, but I think we should forget about whether it's fair or not. You got to pay taxes. That is one thing. And then the other thing I'm kind of understanding is that even if you're in that boat, or that the government's fair, whatever, you do get some emotional peace, if you can call it that, from being compliant, because a lot of crypto traders who made a lot of gains, not all of them, but most of them, or some of them, are very intelligent people.
Yes.
Okay, so I think most of them kind of know, look, I actually got to pay this tax. Maybe they're just waiting for the next bull run to have funds again, or whatever the case may be.
Attending that Chainalysis conference that we went to, I mean, it was eye-opening to see how much they could actually trace and track. I mean, yes, of course, there's stopping points because it hits an exchange. You know, funds move between wallets, and you can't really trace through like a hot wallet, which is like an exchange, or something like a Binance or a KuCoin or something. So you can't necessarily trace through it. But Chainalysis has to stop there. The government doesn't have to stop there. They can keep going through those exchanges and trace indefinitely. So there's no stopping point for them. So even looking at just what the technology can do by itself, without any extra help or authorities, it's mind blowing.
I think what we're going to see, from what I have been seeing in movements, especially if you look at the IRS, because they're really ramping it up at the moment, but there's a lag. Maybe the IRS is the leading indicator, but
Yes.
there's a lag with tax authorities to get the right people, to get the resources, to get the software in place. But like you said, it's over time.
It's inevitable. It's inevitable. I mean, if the records still exist, it can always be traced. I mean, it's actually then down to motive. I mean, if they choose to go back that far, it's available. It's always there.
And any other reasons that made you decide to declare, or any other reasons you think make some people decide to not declare that you can think of?
Maybe other traders are also seeing this gray area where maybe not everything in the space is defined, and they're seeing it as potentially an opportunity to say, okay, well, it's not defined, so I can't really declare it.
But do they make an attempt to find out? Go to a crypto tax specialist, or what is your effort applied?
Well, this is the beauty of the gray area. So if there is actually a gray area, you have the advantage as the person declaring. I mean, there is a gray area.
Be aggressive in the gray area. Be in the tax law, but be absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yes. So while
pay your tax, but don't leave a tip.
While it's undefined, I mean, be fair. Obviously, be fair, but use the gray area. I mean, it's there.
Plus, if you do that, and they decide later they want to handle it differently,
yes,
then you have, in most tax jurisdictions, the 3-year period where you have declared it. They had the opportunity to question it. So even declaring it now, and within tax laws being aggressive, and time passes, you're on so much a better ground.
Yes.
So then you are actually exploiting the fact that they are slow.
Yes.
Because you were declaring
it's to your advantage. Yes.
Again, where somebody who knows what they're doing can be tax aggressive, you can be data aggressive, you can be inventory method aggressive, and you can be on the front foot. So that's actually a good point. By taking the kind of legally correct stance, you're on the front foot.
Yes.
And there's now for you a lot of opportunity to exploit by being aggressive.
Well,
and they can't come back.
Exploit, but
kind of. But they within tax law.
Yes.
They, that is kind of tax avoidance, not evasion.
Yes.
They can't come back 4 years later when they now understand.
Of course.
And say, okay, no, it wasn't working like that. They have the opportunity to challenge you now. If you declared nothing, they can now still decide how they want to handle it.
Based on later tax treatment.
Yes, and now they come back and say, okay, for 2021, this. And man, if they decide to go back all the years, there's going to be bankrupt crypto
There's going to be
traders.
pain felt, I'm sure.
I genuinely think at some point we're going to see a lot of pain. We are seeing a lot of pain in the crypto market. We are seeing a lot of pain, but retrospective pain added to that.
Yes.
And then on the side of reasons, again, you think people are not declaring.
Reasons, I think.
Do you think we've covered all of that, or do you think there's a category of genuine ignorance? They made no attempt to find out. They are oblivious to the fact, because you would be surprised how many people I speak to that is absolutely astounded when they hear you need to pay tax on crypto. For me, it is how do you think you're making money? There's no tax on it. Do they know Benjamin Franklin?
I don't think there's ever been another time where a new asset class like this has been, come about. I mean, where tax law isn't actually really defined for a new type of asset class. And I think there's almost not a taking advantage of this new time period where it isn't defined, but I think it's almost like crypto is this little secret nest, this little thing that no one knows about. I mean,
but it's not that anymore. I mean,
this place that's untouched by no one knows it's happening. It's kind of below the scenes and decentralized and belongs to no government, and the money isn't really anywhere. Maybe it's the feeling of I can't really get caught because my government's not going to know.
Again, if you can give 10 seconds of advice to somebody in the boat of not declaring, what would that be? I think it's almost that there's a genuine concern.
Yes.
In the sense of but it's genuinely not going to end well.
No, it's not going to end well.
Yeah.
It's not going to end well. And I think the advice I would give is your transactions are not as untraceable as you may think they are. They really aren't.
And there's no limit where they cannot decide to still come back.
There's an unlimited scope. I mean, in traditional finance, where maybe it's a bit of cash and it's some credit there and it's between bank accounts and whatever, stuff kind of can go missing over the years. Not intentionally, but it can kind of go missing. It's difficult to keep records for extremely long periods of time. But if something is decentralized, it means that the network will kind of stay up until there's no one still hosting that network. So if your transactions are hosted in a decentralized manner, great. I mean, the data is stored there forever, but also the data is stored there forever.
Yeah.
And if one realizes that the scope is kind of unlimited. I mean, the scope could extend generations.
It's
not
like,
just...
I love blockchain because it's immutable.
Yes.
But you also then have to be in the camp of I'm declaring my taxes.
Kind of like, I love blockchain because it's immutable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit sad as well. Yeah. Sure.
And
so what are you seeing from your clients? What sort of reasons? Like
I think pretty much what we discussed. That I've had so many calls where clients are just trying to find out whether they can be caught.
Just approaching you for that sort of like
But
peace
you
of
also
mind,
get people who actually approach us before they start trading, saying, I want to know the tax consequences in advance. But what I do see that also fits in, once people have become compliant, there's this relief.
Yes.
And also many times, because you can be quite aggressive within the law, it's not as bad as they thought.
Yes.
Sometimes worse,
Yes.
but many times not as bad. And then they understand what's going on. Then they approach us and say, okay, it's close to year end. Is there any tax we can harvest?
Yes.
Is there any smart planning that we can do? So now they become a genuine serious trader. They think about tax.
Yes.
When they actually make a trade, they can ask us about the tax consequences, and now they can keep tax in mind.
Yes.
So they got compliant, they won the front foot. Now they are even more on the front foot because they're taking taxes into account.
Yes.
And I think it's eventually those people acting like responsible grown-ups who's going to be the guys as this mature who will be successful traders. But cool, I think that gives great insight. Thanks for sharing your thoughts also.
Sure.